Good morning, it's Mrs. Pollard, and today we're going to take a little bit deeper look into World War II. Why did it happen? I know that yesterday Mr. Higgins visited with you about some of the background for Adolf Hitler and how World War II, some of the things that were going on in Germany at that time. So let's take a look at where you left off. I know you talked about the Allies and the Axis powers, and let's move forward. So why did World War II happen? There was nationalistic tension in Germany. There were unresolved issues from World War I. Germany had a lot of internal struggle going on at that time. They were suffering the effects of the Great Depression, and there was a lot of economic turmoil. They had, during World War I, there were buildings lost and jobs lost, and after World War I, Germany was struggling to get back on their feet. And they were in somewhat of a political vacuum. They were not the good guys in World War I either. In 1937, the Japanese invaded China in an effort to take over China. In 1939, the Germans invaded Poland. And as you discussed yesterday, or as you saw, Adolf Hitler was a very powerful speaker, and he was a strong leader in Germany, and the people believed in him and followed him. And it was his idea to invade Poland. And in 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. But we all know that. I think that most of you've seen the movie Pearl Harbor, but that is the single action that brought the United States into World War II. So, when did some of these things begin to happen? World War I ended in 1918. In 1921, Adolf Hitler became the leader of the Nazi Party. In 1929, the U.S. stock market crashed, which caused our Great Depression. In 1930, the Germans elected the Nazis into power. And in 1933, Adolf Hitler was voted the Chancellor of Germany. And March 12th of that same year, 1933, the first concentration camp was opened near Berlin, Germany. That's when, in our story, Anna Marie Johansson was born. The Germans, in 1935, the German Jews were stripped of their rights, and you will see this yellow star. All the Jews were required to wear that on the outside of their garments so they could be quickly and easily identified as being Jewish. In 1936, the Olympics began in Berlin, Germany. In 1937, Hitler revealed his war plans. In 1938, on August 12th, the German military mobilized, and on November 9th of 1938 was what they call Kristallnacht. You will hear more about that in our story. In 1939, Britain, France, Australia, and New Zealand declared war on Germany. On that same year, in October, the Nazis began euthanasia on the sick and disabled, which is basically putting them to sleep or killing them. On November 8th, there was an assassination attempt on Hitler, but it failed. And in 1940, the Nazis invaded Denmark, which, when you see these Star of David necklace symbols, that deals directly with our story. In 1940, Lisa Johansson was murdered. Another part of our story you'll notice by the necklace. August of that year, the Nazis bombed Britain. In 1941, in February, the Nazis invaded Northern Africa. And in June of 1941, the Nazis' mass murders began. In September, the Nazis ordered the Jews to wear yellow stars. They were like badges that they had to wear on the outside of all their garments. In September of 1941, the gas chamber at Auschwitz began. Then, in December 7th of 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and on December 11th, Hitler declared war on the United States. In 1942, in April, the Japanese Americans were sent to the U.S. concentration camps. In 1943, in April, the Jews fought back in the Warsaw Ghetto. They were fighting back against the Nazis. On August 29th, King Christian X was arrested, and the Danes sank their fleet. You'll see the necklace again. That means that's a part of our story. The Danes are from Denmark. On September of 1943, Great Aunt Bertie comes into our story. And then on September 2nd, Mama had trouble in our story. And September 3rd, we will have the incident with the handkerchief. In 1944, on June 6th, the Allied forces had the D-Day invasion. That was on the Normandy beach in France. In 1945, Germany surrendered on May 7th. And on August 14th, Japan surrendered. And now we need to look at the Holocaust. So what was the Holocaust? The Holocaust was the Nazi plan to exterminate the Jewish population and some of the other populations, but a lot of their main focus was on the Jewish population. It says some of the upcoming images are intense and graphic in nature. They are not for the light of heart, but they are something that must be remembered, lest mankind falter and repeat our past mistakes. The Holocaust. This is a map that will show you some of the extermination camps and concentration camps, cities with ghettos, transit cities where they had major massacres. This is throughout Europe. This is a flow chart that was used to determine who was German and who was not. You will notice that it's kind of like a family tree. Like today we have Ancestry's family trees, but back then this is their answer to today's Ancestry DNA. And if they would trace your heritage back, if you had any Jewish ancestors, you were considered. This slide will give you an idea of some of the numbers that we were talking about with the Germans and the concentration camps. These were the fatalities of the Holocaust. You'll see that there were 5 9/10 million, that's 5,900,000 Jews became victims, Soviet POWs, Poles, which means they were the people from Poland, people from Romania, the disabled, Freemasons, Slovens, those are from the Slovakias, like Czechoslovakia, and then the Jehovah's Witnesses. You can look by camp at some of the different concentration camps and the number of prisoners who were killed in each of these camps. And here is your information by year. As you see, 1942, there were 2,700,000 Jews killed by the Nazis. Here's a synagogue in Warsaw Ghetto. They bombed it, set it afire. Here's a picture of the Auschwitz death camp. People were put onto trains and sent into the death camp, the Jewish people. Here's a picture of some Jewish women or females when they arrived, and they have taken their clothes, and they're standing there in their underwear. And this is when they unloaded the Jews from the trains and sent them into the camp. This is like, to give you an idea of the large groups that were herded in at a time. That is the end of today's lesson and the end of our PowerPoint on Number the Stars.